Okay, you're live.
All right, welcome everybody, and thank you for attending today. AI has been. My name is Doug Hoffman with Mesquite Field Farm, and I'm a mentor for Battleground to Breaking Ground, who is hosting this event today. Um, there is a lot of conversation, and we have a short amount of time, right? But there's a lot of conversation today about AI and what AI can do for us, right? It's available in our Microsoft technologies, it's available on our phones, it's available everywhere. And we're seeing that utilized a lot more. Um, People are using it to do a lot of tasks that are good, but they're not validating that information, right? So we're seeing a lot of erroneous things being put into grants and things that people don't understand. So we kind of wanted to discuss AI. And if you look at the screen right now, you're looking at the AI generation that I used to create this conversation today. But I had to provide it a bunch of information, and I'm going to walk you through that, right? So you're looking at the agenda, but the querying in AI is the key. Um, the two documents that were sent out, one of them, the second one I sent out is what's called a learning model. Many of us have learned about the different learning models and ways that people how they best educate themselves and what models teach them better, how they retain that information. So that second PDF is for you to figure out which learning model works for you, and how you can use AI to teach you things about the topics that you are interested in working with. So as you look at the screen here, it tells us what our 1 hour agenda is, but this is the actual query that I used to generate this class, right? So we have a template that we use in Battleground that our participants have to use that develops their business plan for them. So I had to explain to AI what it was I was doing, right? So I want to build this class to teach you about how to use AI for agricultural business planning. So I typed up this query. I'm a mentor and instructor. I define who I am so that AI understands that. And then what I'm trying to do. So I want to develop a 1 hour class utilizing AI to write your agricultural business plans. The business plans follow the attached template, which is the template that we use in our program. It's just a blank template that defines each of the segments of our business plan. And then I want AI to utilize a learning model appropriate to the individual. So I need you guys to define what your learning model is. It understands what mine is. If you look on the left side of my screen here, I've been using AI for quite a while. Each one of these are projects, books, programs that I'm developing. So we have been using it for a long time. So I told it what I wanted it to generate, and I told it I wanted the speaker notes and I wanted student handouts for the class. And I really want to teach the participants how to write the queries, so provide me a list of queries to help them complete the task, which I spelled complete wrong, and it still got it, right? So I had a Marine Corps moment there and left out a letter. So it responds back to me, right? And it starts writing. So it defines who I am, it defines the program we're in, it defines the agenda and what I need to talk about in this agenda. And then it provides me the information I need to be telling you, right? So if I didn't know anything about the topic, it provided me the information and the speaker notes that I need. These are not detailed speaker notes, but they are topics that I need to talk about and cover. If I knew nothing about the topic, I could go back into AI and tell it, I want you to create detailed instructor notes that will allow me to explain all of this information in these topics to my participants, and it will spell all of that out for you. And there's a lot of ways to do that. And we'll get into I'm going to walk you through this, and then we'll do an actual one, and I will show you how this works. So this section is what I need to go through to work with each one of you, or what I need to talk about, right? So then we get into the student handouts. So this is the first handout that you received in PDF form that Heidi sent out. This is that handout. AI created that for me. So these are your top engines that people are using and what they are really good at doing. So not all AI engines are created equally. Some are better for graphic creation, some are better for music creation, some are better for editing and writing and detailed plan development. Some are good for research analysis. So there's all different types. So these are the top ones for business planning. These would be the top ones you want to use. ChatGPT is the one we're using today. It is created by and maintained by OpenAI, and they have sold a part or a spinoff of ChatGPT, is what you know as the Microsoft Copilot. So this is your query framework, right? So in the prompt template, you have to tell, well, you don't have to, but if you want the more detailed instruction you provide to the AI engine, the more detailed your answers are going to be. So if you kind of have to think when you're talking to AI that you're talking to a 3-year-old. So you have to tell it you are an expert in agricultural business planning, so that it now defines itself and understands, okay, I need to pull from this data set. And then you get to write whatever specific section name is for my farm. So Mesquite Field Farm is my farm name, located in Nixon, Texas. My focus is in whatever enterprises I use, and the tone should be professional, educational, friendly. You have to tell it how to answer, how you want it to answer. Professional tone, or a generic tone, just a friendly tone, or from an educational perspective. And there's a good example of that, right? So right there is the example. So it's provided all of this just based off of my initial query. So this is the query list of the template that I uploaded that gives each breakdown of the business template that we use in Battleground. So here is that template, the query list by each Battleground section in that template and what it's doing. So then it provides these learning style questions. How do you best learn, right? You get to choose as an individual. I'm a visual learner, or I'm an auditory learner, or I do better at reading or writing, or kinesthetic, right? And there's an explanation of what each of those are and how you would write that prompt, which we're going to get into that in detail momentarily. So then the ethics and best practices, right? These are all segments inside of that template. And then it said, what would you like me to do now? So that's just one initial query that I ran. And I told it, give me a Word document. That'll be great. It created that downloadable document for me. I opened that, viewed it on the screen. It told me what it put in the document. And I looked at it to make sure that the information it provided was correct and what I wanted and how I wanted to teach it. So then I came back to it again and asked it the same query and modified some of that conversation to see if it would give me the exact same data or what it was going to modify in that data. So I came, if you go back up to the top of the screen, you'll see my original query. And then I changed in this one just the number of words. And then I gave it the link to my farm so it could better pull the information, right? If you have a website or a Facebook page, you can send AI to that to utilize that in its query data. So when it's providing the information back to you and putting that data in that template form, it will pull that information from your website or your Facebook page or your Instagram page, any of your social media. It will pull it from there and integrate all of that into the template for you. So I gave it a query. It's like, great, let me give you that input. And I told it, that was the other thing I changed. I told it that it could ask me 5 questions to assist in the development of that. It's really good for you to do that, to to tell the AI engine to ask me questions about what it is that you're wanting it to write for you, because it's going to go look at all of the data, it's going to look at the template, and it's going to understand very quickly that it needs to provide some additional, it needs you to provide some additional data for it to better suit you. So it asked me those 5 questions. Which of my farm's products or operations do I feel passionate about? And I answered each one of those. And then it spit the data out. And there are my answers. So to question 1, I told it all of those items were important to me. And as I answered each one and which topic was the what worked for me in my development, it told me thank you, and then promptly wrote that value section for the business plan. And those are the first 5 things that our template asks for. So then it continues and says, do you want me to do the next section? So I usually tell AI, particularly for battleground participants, or when you're doing, because you're doing a section per week, I will have it write that section. And then I'll go through and look at that information that is provided. And if it's right, then I'll leave it alone, right? So this is the 5 pieces that I had to give in the value section of our program, right, of our template. So it took my answers to those questions and responded to those. Now, if you are brand new into agriculture or brand new into a topic and you don't understand how or what those topics are, right? I don't understand all the pieces and parts of, let's say, running an apiary. How do I do bees, right? If I have no experience doing that, AI will write the plan for me. But if I don't understand what it's talking about, I have no way to validate that. So it's at this point where AI does the best thing that it can do and provide to us is you can tell AI that second document that was emailed, that second PDF, is the learning models. So you can tell AI, hey, I use the Socratic method better. I'd learn better that way. So I can tell it to utilize the Socratic method and teach me how to run an apiary. And AI will absolutely start questioning you and ask you questions about it and teaching you how to develop an apiary, how to manage bees, all of those pieces and parts. AI is great at teaching. You just have to know how to ask the question. So this is what it has provided me. And I told it was great. And I told it, okay, let's go into the next section. Let's go into the vision section, right? I understand regenerative agriculture. I've been doing it for 10 years and these are my enterprises, and I do grass-fed beef and pastured poultry and market gardens and hydroponics and apiaries. So I already get those, I do them. So it was easy for me to send it to my website, my social media, and tell it, okay, let's create the next section. So it did that. It went into the second section of the business planning template for the battleground participants, which is the vision statement. And it pulled all of that information from my website and provided that to me. And then it asked me, would you like me to develop your mission statement next and following the same template structure for week 2? And I told it, yes, just do that. So it did it, right? Here's the mission statement. Then you have to review that, make sure it's right. But if I don't know the topics, I can go back into AI and tell it, I want to learn something different. So let's go, these are the learning methods, right, that I sent to you in this document right here. You have it. So let's go back up and look at the deep thinking model is Socratic, the hands-on, creativity model, independence. So let's use, for example, the Socratic method. So let's write a query for that, because let's say I don't know anything about soil health. So we can go back in here and create a new chat. And I will tell AI, you are an expert in soil health. I do not know anything about soil health. utilize the Socratic method and teach me about soil health. You can ask me 5 questions that help you accomplish this. And then hit return. AI is going to think about it for a minute, and it's like, great. So it's going to ask me questions. This is how the Socratic method works, right? It'll guide me through with questions. So the Socratic method teaches through questioning. So it'll force you to reason your way through it. So it's going to ask me one question at a time, and I'll answer the best that I can, even if I'm unsure. It will take my answer and it will build the next question based off of my response to the previous question. That's the Socratic method. So when you think of soil, what comes to mind? What do you imagine it's made of, and what role do you think it plays for your plants? So Heidi, are you still on and unmuted?
I'm still here. I was muted though.
Yeah, so let me get this answer from you. What do you think soil is? I'll type it in.
So it is all those things, your dirt, your minerals, your organic matter, microorganisms.
Let's leave it at that. And so I'm answering that first question. It's like, great, it's a strong foundation. You recognize that soil isn't just dirt. It's a living mixture of minerals, organic matter, and microscopic life. Let's explore that life a little further. If soil contains microorganisms like bacteria, fungi, and others, what do you think these organisms do with the soil? How might they affect the plants growing there? So let's just say that I have absolutely no idea how to answer that question. So I'll just tell it I don't know. So it's going to respond to that. And it's going to explain to me that think of soil organisms as the workers in an underground factory. They break down plant residue, recycle nutrients from partnership with roots, and even build structure in the soil. If dead leaves or manure fall on the ground, they eventually disappear. What do you think is happening to that material? Where does it go, and what process might cause it to change? So we went from a topic or from an answer that I had no idea about, but all of a sudden I know how this works. It's going to adapt that teaching model and continue asking me these questions until I tell it to stop. And it's not going to stop until it says, I have achieved a level of knowledge that is comparable to anyone else in the industry. So this is how you would use this as a learning model, right? This is how you would use AI to teach you. That second document that Heidi sent you all of those learning models, so you can find the one that works for you. You can test them out. You can play with those, and there are examples of each of those models in that document. So I'm not going to continue down this path. We know how this works. I wanted you to see how it would teach you, and so that you can understand that. So we'll go to a new query. So I wanted you to see live how we would do a query and how we would utilize that same template. So in our program, we have a blank template. I'll show you what it looks like. If I can find it. Oh, I actually can't. It's all hidden, Heidi, because Zoom's got it blocked. There we go. So this is our template that we're using, right? This is just a blank, it's a blank template we use in Battleground. And this is our current cohort. So it's just blank. It's just asking you, you're going to create each of these each of these pieces you will create in every week. We will add some pieces to that all the way through the end of the program. So we're going to tell AI, I'm actually going to want you to see that how fast we can do this. You could write your entire program in about 10 minutes. And the difference is that we can now tell that you're doing that. And I want to show you some things that AI would recommend to you, and I'm going to offer you some different solutions. So let's close that template, and we're going to go back into AI, and we're going to tell it we're in new chat. I'm going to hit the plus here, and I'm going to add that file, that template, right off my desktop. And where is BP template is the one I just showed you. So we're uploading that template into the system. It's blank. So now I'm going to go tell it what I want it to do. So I had this query that I ran already, but I want you to see it from start to finish. So we're going to tell it, hey, you are an expert in business planning. In agriculture business planning. So we've defined that for AI. So it now knows it's the expert. It knows what it's going to go pull the data for. What I didn't do was tell it regenerative agriculture business planning. I just told it agriculture. So it's going to pull from that large, vast amount of knowledge that's out there in the internet of everything in agriculture. But I really want to be specific in my business plan for regenerative agriculture. So we've told it it's the expert in that. So it's now going to shrink that data set down and focus just on regenerative agriculture. And I'm going to tell it I am a new farmer. However, I already produce grass-fed beef, pastured poultry, broilers and layers, hydroponics, apiaries, market gardens. Now I want it to pull all of the information that it can find on me from my social media. So I'm going to tell it I have a web page at http://www.mesquitefieldfarm.com. Please utilize this data to help develop the template. Can't spell develop either. Now that we've given it a source and a place to go look for data, right? I'm going to give it an option to ask me questions at the end after it reviews all of that data that's out there. So I want it to also understand that I teach for other organizations and I work with other producers. We're going to wait and see if it picks that data up. So right now I've given it a place to get data from, and I've asked it to complete the template. We do have some sections inside of this business plan that are specifically related to profit and loss statements, all of the financial pieces, all of the tax pieces. So we haven't told it to do any of that yet, but we want to make sure that if it does, well, we're going to tell it to go find that data, but we want it to cite that data because AI is like many of your farm animals. It uses the least path of resistance to get what it needs to get to. So if it needs food or energy, it's going to take the fastest path to get there. with the least amount of resistance. AI will do the same thing. If you just tell it, make sure that you give me a link to the source where you got this data from, that link may be a dead link because it didn't say, you didn't tell it if you wanted a functioning link, you just wanted a link. So we'll tell it here, when you pull the financial data or develop or during the development of the plan, cite any sources you pull data from in APA format. Now let's just let this thing run and see what it comes up with right off the bat. While we're letting it write this out and figure it out, are there any questions from anybody so far? Any questions at all?
Before you move
No.
on, Dwayne, if you can put your email in the chat for me, then I can send you the documents.
So AI has responded. It's reviewed the document. What we didn't do is tell it could ask me any questions, right? We just told it answer with what you got. So it's done that. It's converted it into a customized agricultural business plan template with my farm model already structured in it. Grass-fed beef, pastured broilers, layers, hydroponics, apiaries, market gardens. These are the things it's telling me it's going to do. It's going to use the information from the website. It's going to incorporate regenerative management principles. It's going to add financial data benchmarks. And the deliverables, what we're going to receive is a customized Word document ready for me to fill out or submit, embedded APA citations for any external information or benchmarks and where it pulled it from, and a consistent footer for my copyright standard on anything that I write. And to proceed, it needs 5 clarifications. Primary purpose. Do you want this plan oriented toward internal management planning, educational operational roadmap, or funding submission? So we're going to tell it in this case that it's going to be for all of the above. So we'll respond with question 1, all of the above. Question 2, financial data level. How would you like me to include sample benchmark data for startup and operating costs? Or do you want me to leave the tables blank for me to enter my own numbers? I want it to find the numbers. You find the data. Question 3, should I localize all cost and market data to Gonzales County, South Central Texas? Where do you want me to look for this data to help you develop this plan and your analysis? I want to use Central Texas. Question 4, should I give equal weight to all 5 enterprises or prioritize beef and poultry as core enterprises with the rest as supporting? So in this case, I don't want all of my eggs in one basket. I don't want to say I'm going to make all of my money from beef. I want to split it up equally. So I want it to do each enterprise as 20% of the financials. Does that make sense? And how do I want it? How do I want the output? A filled-in draft plan using my actual farm data, or a fillable template with prompts and guidance text retained? So I want it to fill out everything about my farm. Tell me everything that you think it's going to be based off of just my webpage and my social media presence and what you think it should be. So I want filled-in draft. We've answered its questions. It's going to extract the data. It's going to research regional data. It's going to deliver the document. So let's go do that. So it won't take it very long, and it'll give me that file. I have mine set up to provide a written version of this on screen before I have it go to a file, but it will absolutely do that for me. This one, because the way we wrote the query, may show it on screen and give me the file. So let's load. Yeah, it did not deliver the file. Good. Followed my instruction. So let's go back up to the top of this. So there's the executive summary for my farm. We need to review that data, right? We need to understand that it is actually looking at real data about my farm and making decisions that are correct, that I'm going to be able to stand behind and explain. Because if I'm using this document in my coursework, Dr. Clary may come back to me and say, great, I love your executive summary, but what is that 20% that's listed right there as your total farm revenue? What is that number? What do you think that means? Explain that to me. So you need to understand the data that it's providing you, and you need to be able to talk about it when people ask you pointed questions about it. So this one is done pretty good. The farm uses holistic management, rotational grazing, agroecological market gardens, and integrated systems to optimize soil health, biodiversity, above and below ground ecosystem services. The goal is to achieve profitability, ecological resilience, and a sustainable farm business model within 3 to 5 years. That's great. But any of you that know me know that is not at all how I speak. So the first way that I'm going to understand that you had AI write it, and you may not understand the data that's in it, is when I see it written this way. But we'll get to that in a little while. Mission and vision statements, yeah, it's done all of that. I want to produce nutrient-dense food, ethically raised food through regenerative practices while restoring soils. My vision, yep, it pulled all of that off my website and reworded it. It's now telling you where I am, what my enterprises are, what my website is, and a link to that website. And my land-based infrastructure, staffing, equipment, it's telling me I need to input that because it doesn't know what my inventory is. So if you just post this as your business plan to Greg and he sees that your input, I mean, we automatically know that, yeah, you didn't write it. Somebody else wrote it. AI wrote it. So there's some pieces there that AI can't get when you get into the tax base and what you can expense out over time, what you can expense out initially. So the plan's never going to be 100%, but it's going to give you a core to work with. And you're just going to validate that it's right and then input and modify those pieces. And if there's pieces you don't understand, you can go back and use that learning model and have AI teach you about those pieces and then update your plan with that. So there's one highlighted spot where we have to input data, right? So let's look at the marketing analysis. Grass-fed beef was positioned at a premium in direct market channels, farmers market, CSAs, and restaurants. Texas Rancher reports processing marketing costs at $1.50 to $2.50 a pound for beef, and finished beef retail at $8 to $15 a pound. And that's where they got it from. And there's the link. So we can hit that link and go to it and see exactly what they're talking about. So it did do what I asked it to do. Poultry, Texas ranks top 5 nationally for broiler and egg production, making the region favorable for poultry infrastructure and markets. Hydroponics, it's talked about all of those things. Demand is there and it's strong. Apiaries, honey pollination services provide diversification. Yeah, it's perfect. That's exactly what I would say in my market analysis, right? But let's say that I didn't like that data or I want more data, which you should in your market analysis want more data. I would dig into each one of these and tell it fine. So if I'm selling at CSAs and farmers markets that it mentioned in here, where are those farmers markets? What is the average price that they're making off that market? So that data is available on the internet, right? So I can ask it, if I'm selling grass-fed beef in Austin, Texas at a farmer's market, of the top two farmers markets there, which I know one grosses $2 million a year and the other one grosses $1 million a year, tell me what they're selling that beef for and what percentage of the people that are selling at that farmer's market are selling beef, because the rules are different at each market. So the AI is not going to teach you everything. It's not going to understand that the rules are different at Pearl Farmers Market in San Antonio versus the Airport Farmers Market in Austin. So you still have to go do that research. We can dig into these questions and find those pieces that people have not really thought of. And this market analysis, one of the pieces where I would really focus on understanding what you really know about your market, right? So if you see this, you should understand where that data is coming from and what does that actually mean to you. So Texas ranks top 5 nationally for broiler and egg production, but it did not say that that's small farms producing it. Because in Texas, egg production is not, yes, small farms produce eggs, but the largest producers are large farms, large agricultural industries done in houses, not on small farms. So we would need to dig into that a little further, and we can tell it to do that. I would just write all these notes down on the document, the final document, because I would tell it to output this into a single Word document. You could download that, read it, write your notes on it, and then go back and ask the questions. We're going to do that real time on the screen. So let's move through the rest of this. It's looking at rotation grazed cattle, finish on grass, marketed direct to consumer or through CSAs and retail cuts. Benchmark data from A&M shows lease rate in South Texas, $165 to $200 per animal unit in brush country. Grass-fed beef cost return study shows that under certain conditions, the net return per acre can be $192.50 in the upper Midwest as the example, but with high variations. Here's the assumptions about that. Stocking rates, finishing weights, direct market sales, finished 30 steers at 1,000 pounds live weight, sell at $650 a pound retail equivalent. Well, that doesn't fit my model. That's not how I sell, right? So I need to go back into here and dig into how I choose to sell. But if you don't have a farm and you're developing a market or developing the plan to understand how it works, this is great information to have, right? This teaches you a lot of information or provides you a lot of information that you don't even have to start. So it gives you a starting point, but it's not the end product. You've got to go out and do more research into what are those stocking rates work for me. I'm only on 20 acres. I'm not going to have 30 steers at my place, right? So you have to go back in and modify this plan, but it's giving you a place to start from. Broiler operation, yeah. I'm not growing 10,000 birds. So I have to go back in and modify this data. And what are the laws, right? We didn't ask it to provide any legal information at this point in the template. We do ask for it later, but right now it's made an assumption that I'm going to do 10,000 broilers annually. No, I'm not. The law doesn't allow me to do that unless I have a facility for it, right? And I'm not selling it for $4.50 a pound either. That's the retail equivalent. That's not what I get in the market. But it is a starting point if I have no data to go from. Pastured layers, yeah, I'm not doing 2,000 of those either. But it does give you a starting point to understand how many birds it would take to make a set number in the industry. Then you got to go talk to people that do it, right? Go reach out to another farmer that's doing it. Go talk to Matthew Baratino, talk to Ty and Toki Morgan, those people that do this model every day and are scaled, right? So they can help you understand what the big ag side of it does or the large farms do versus the small farms do it. So but this is a starting point in your template. Hydroponics, same thing. So this thing's done a great job of providing me. It's made an assumption that my target was $1 million. Oh, Heidi, there's a question in the chat. I can't see that. Can you tell me what that question is, please?
All right. So since each market price fluctuates, honey, beef,
And Heidi, I
etc.
can read it if you want. I just didn't
Oh,
know if since I'm in the same room, if it would provide feedback to the participants on the call. But if
it doesn't
it's
sound
coming
like
through clearly, the question is, since each market price fluctuates, honey, beef, et cetera, could you ask it to look at this plan and dive deeper into the benchmark data for Central Texas and ask it to produce a data set with median, average, and range on each of your production areas?
Absolutely. Yes. You can tell it to dive into those and provide
Like
you that.
individually. Yeah.
Now we're getting feedback. Yeah, so you can dive into that and it will give you, you can tell it to output in a table that median data for each range. And you can do it by region. You can tell it to do it by city. You can tell it to do it by the whole state, or you can do the entire United States. But since we're in a region, you can tell it to look at the central region of Texas, where you can tell it, hey, go look at the major metropolitan areas, Dallas, Houston, Austin, and tell me what that breakdown is. Yes, it will absolutely do that. And since you're sitting in the room with me, remind me of that in a minute, and I'll go do that. We'll do it live. Yeah, that's a good one. It also looked and understands how we raise our products, right? The sustainability section, these are all pieces that are in that template. Marketing and sales, how we should do that, right? But if you don't know what a CSA subscription is, and I ask you that in your business plan, or if you're applying for a loan, or you're applying for a cost share or a grant, or those people are going to ask you questions, right? You have to be able to explain that. So if you don't know what a CSA is, you can use AI to teach you about it. You can go do that research and understand, hey, there's different pricing for CSA subscriptions depending on where you're at and what's there, right? If I'm just offering grass-fed beef is the only thing that's in my CSA, well, I probably don't have a lot of clients. I have a specific small set of clients that are buying from me. But as I add more things to it, the price of that's going to increase. The more things that are in the CSA, the more expensive it becomes, right? And each one of those can be set up by the owner of the CSA, however the way they choose, right? So there's 1,001 ways to do that. Restaurant partnerships, right? Do you truly understand what a restaurant partnership is? You have to understand things like that chef has a just-in-time menu. That chef receives deliveries on a specific day and they want it in a specific way. Sometimes their dock doors are not the same size. So all of that has to be defined by the chef in the contract. You need to understand the costs of that and how those pieces work, right? So this is just giving you a basis to go by. Then you get into the farm tours or agritourism, and there's a storytelling of that, right? There's actually a learning model of storytelling as well. So AI will teach you utilizing a story that helps you understand how those stories would be built to help you in your marketing pieces for social media. So yeah, this thing's done a good job of providing the basis for what I would do and how I would do it. And it actually covers pretty much about the 80-20 rule of my farm, right? Operations and management. Yeah, full-time farm manager, me, part-time seasonal help. It's saying that in order for me to make $1 million a year and $200,000 in each of my revenue streams, I'm probably not going to be able to do that by myself. So we would need to look at that, right? We would need to go back and tell AI, hey, I want you to readjust, not looking at $1 million annually. Let's look at 50,000, and we can tell it to regenerate the entire plan. So it's done a pretty good plan for the operation schedule of what I need to do, but I really need to dig into that further, right, and understand it. If I've never done this before and I'm just developing this plan, then I need to go look at each one of those bulleted items and know what that truly means. And what is biosecurity for poultry? With avian influenza out today, biosecurity means a lot of things to a lot of people, but it's a little bit more in focus right now because of the problem we have with H5N1. So we need to expand on that. We need to understand what the cost is to that. How do we need to expand on that topic a little more. What is that risk management? What is that biosecurity? Do I need to put feed trays for people to walk into before they enter into one of my poultry facilities? Do I not allow them in the facilities at all? Do I have to keep birds from getting in? Wild animals, wild birds from getting inside of my enclosures? All of those things have to be figured out, right? So if you're just posting this plan, we're going to know that you haven't dug into it. And it's okay for the first run. And every week you dig into those sections that you're supposed to dig into and expand these pieces out. But this gives you a great outline to utilize to get started. Financial projections, 3-year outlook, year one revenue. I don't know anyone that is ever going to make $1 million of revenue in agriculture in their first year. Well, if you do, you're going to start with 3 million and you're going to end up with 1 million in your first year, right? So that number is not real. That number is not viable for me. And I would have to go back in and tell AI, we need to redo that financial projection because, yeah, not happening. So we're going to do that, right? We'll do that in a second. Investment, use of funds, right? Yeah, capital needed. And for what? Well, that's a pretty good list of things to discuss. But there's a lot of pieces missing because if you don't own this land yet, now you got to figure out electricity, water, fencing, barns, enclosures, structures, cross fencing, all of those pieces. This is a great way to start. But what does it mean to build out that greenhouse and hydroponic build out? What does that mean? So if you've never done this before and you're just starting in agriculture, like many of our participants are, this gives you a place to start and look at what that means, right? It's not a one and done when this thing creates it in the first, on your first day, when you dump this in here, you're set for the entire course. No, this is just a good place to start. Funding sources, farm operating loans, right? USDA beginning farm rancher programs, NRCS cost shares for regenerative practices. But what are those NRCS cost shares? We make you go do those, look those up in the assignments, right? Those are EQIPs, value-added producers grants. We make you go look at those. So this is a good place to start, and it tells you where to go look, right? If you're in Battleground, you did boot camp, so you already know about a lot of these things, but they're not spelled out here. So you need to go add those pieces. Which ones am I specifically going for? And then how are you going to utilize funds? Yeah, that's a pretty good breakdown. But we ask you to be more specific because fencing costs today, I just did an 11-acre pasture that was $9,000, $3,000 in materials and $6,000 in labor. So you need to understand that's just this 40% infrastructure piece. That's just the fence, right? Pre-COVID, that price was a quarter of that. So you really need to dig into the use of funds and how we utilize that. But this is a great place to start and a great place to look. And then here's some assumptions, right, that it made because we didn't tell it could ask us more questions. So what's the premium? What are the premium prices for direct marketing? What are the input costs, feed, utilities? Are they manageable? Are they moderate? What's your infrastructure capacity does allow for the targeted volumes that we're talking about? Regenerative practice, improve soil productivity and reduce external inputs over time. Yep, we get that. But what is that reduction of inputs over time? And then the conclusion. And then there's an appendices where it puts all of these, the detailed template, the infrastructure master list and depreciation schedules that we ask for in the template. It will add all of those pieces. So now I'll tell it, yeah, give me that. Well, let's tell it to go back and relook at the finances, right? I like the data. However, I need to refine your assumptions about profits. I want my gross profits to be $60,000. please rerun the entire plan and show me the adjusted numbers based on this change. Also in the products, in the market analysis, for honey, can you please also be nice to your AI? It does adjust its responses based on whether you're being short-tempered with it or polite with it.
It's probably getting grumpy at me on some of my responses because I'm getting grumpy with it taking too long.
Yeah, it does that to me too. Can you please provide a breakdown of honey pricing by major metro areas in a table with high, medium, and low pricing, cost.
So before you hit enter on that to run it, I have a question to tie in with that piece.
Okay.
So your appendix A and B that it says it has up there for you to be able to fill in with your data. Since you're asking it to refine some of your assumptions about this, could you tell it to give you in downloadable Word format form those two appendices so you can fill the information out and then provide it back to it in order to run this new?
Absolutely. What I usually do is I want it to present me this, because downloading these things, you have a short timeline to download these documents from AI,
right?
Before they become non-downloadable. So I want it to show me the majority of the data on screen first. Once I get it to, I know that it's like this when we run this query and it updates everything. Once I start seeing those numbers and the data closer to where I want it, then I will tell it to do me all of the downloads in a single document. And then I'll go back in and make my changes to all the appendices and re-upload those into the system and let it recalculate everything. That makes sense?
Yes, it makes sense. I just wasn't for to help everybody else understand that they could use that then to help them with clarifying it.
Yeah, we told this thing to make all the assumptions, but it understands that it hasn't made all the assumptions correctly, which is why it's asking some of the questions. If I had told it at the beginning, well, I'll tell it here. You can ask me 5 questions to help you clarify the answers. Make sure you tell it when it asks you questions to do it one question at a time. Please ask one question at a time and allow me to answer before the next question. And the reason we tell it to do this is because it's an iterative question. So if it's just to ask you all 5 questions, it's going to ask you some generic questions. But if it allows you to answer the first one, it will take your response and it improves the next question for you and adjusts it accordingly to the previous response. Now, sometimes, depending on where you type this in the query, it may have already run the query before it gets to the section where you said, hey, ask me those one at a time. It may have already created those 5. So this one may give me all 5 questions up front, but we'll see if it caught it. Here we go. Question 1. All right, it understood. So would you like that 60,000 gross profit to represent the entire farm's net income after all expenses, or per enterprise, meaning 60K times 5 or 300,000 total? I like the second option, right? But in the first year, that wouldn't happen. So I would just tell it 60,000 gross, 60K gross. Would you like me to maintain equal 20% revenue share per enterprise or adjust? Yeah, so it's like, really? You want 60K gross? Do you really, that's all? So you want me to split that up into each of the enterprises by 20%? Yes, equal 20. Do you want the 60K gross profit target to represent a realistic first-year result, startup or early stage, or a stabilized operational year after infrastructure market? Do a 3-year. 3-year breakdown. Tell me what it's going to be in order to get to that 60K. We'll model a 3-year financial trajectory showing early startup, expansion, efficiency, and stabilize. Each year will scale towards an eventual 60K total gross profit farm-wide. Would you like me to assume gradual revenue growth with stable cost ratios so profits rise naturally as sales expand, or constant revenue with cost reduction? No, what would normally happen would be natural sales expansion. For the honey market analysis table, do you want me to compare pricing in 5 major Texas metros or include national benchmarks? Just Texas. So it will come back to you and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do based off of your request. Do you want me to display the full recalculated business plan first or generate directly as Word? Let's do it on screen. On screen. Ooh, it's building that table. So we went right back through with all of the answers that we gave it. And the parameters, it's taken the data we adjusted. It took the original data and now it's adjusted everything to match that. And it's updated that 3-year trajectory into the executive summary, right? So we're not looking at that million where, and in the previous version, it told us 20% over 5 revenue streams. This one's actually giving us a better explanation of what we want and how we're going to operate. Mission and values, none of that changed. Oh, look at there, there's that table, right? So there's your table for Austin, San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, El Paso. And some additional information about it, right? 16-ounce jar, Central Texas honey, $7.98 in one store, which happened to be H-E-B, and there's a link to that.
I noticed it went with store grocery, not like the farm.
Yes. But you can absolutely go in there and tell you, we could refine that even further to say, tell me the difference in that pricing from grocery stores to farmers markets, right? And we'll absolutely do that. And it's also telling you the implications for your apiary and your honey enterprise, right? So it's telling you your high price band in your local metro is 12 to 14 per jar. In direct channels, it's higher, giving you margin, room for margin, right? And then you could have market saturation, too many people, right? So it explains those things and gives you some other things to think about, right, as you continue on. So it restructured our enterprise description and our financial benchmarks. Now this is sounding much better, right? And it added a table here to show, oh, how things are going to work in year 1, 2, and 3. but it's still missing some data here, right? It doesn't understand these costs yet. There is no gross profit in the first year. Your gross profit is going to be in the third year, right? You don't know what your costs are yet, but we're estimating that in the third year it's going to be about this, and that your total revenue is going to be 400,000. So there's some pieces it doesn't know that you're going to have to come up with and understand, and it tells you that, right here in your cost ratio assumptions. So you still have to go in and understand how those numbers work. And as you add those additional pieces, like I have a barn, I have tractors, I have containers, I have a house, I have things that depreciate now, things that depreciate over time, you'll add those pieces in, but this gives you a good starting point, right? And you can continue down this path and tell it to get more granular under each section that you want and pick the topic that you want. Questions about any of this so far? Was this an hour class, Heidi?
It was supposed to be, but if they're able to stay on, they can stay on. We are recording it, so I'll be able to get it posted onto YouTube as well.
Got you. I'm over an hour. So questions about this? Any of it? There's got to be some questions. AI is driving people crazy and people are using it. There's got to be some questions.
My questions will take us down a really dark rabbit hole.
I like those. Go ahead. Aaron, questions? John, questions?
Yeah, I feel like at this point, I'm gonna have to just start slowly working my way through it. And then as I come up with questions, I'm gonna have like, can I just message you about it and say, hey man, what about this? Because this was kind of like drinking from a fire hose. And so like I'm gonna have to watch it again several times in order to be able to start really retaining everything. But I'm gonna have to use it before I understand really what my questions are at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
You
have
can.
never used AI, and so that's going to be a new thing for me. All of this is new all the way around.
So I know that Heidi's playing with it now, but I want to give you an example of something. Let me scroll through till I find this thing. So I want to talk about, so you see this where it says invoke Ariana Assist. So as you start, ChatGPT has the ability for you to have an assistant with your ChatGPT. So I will show you an example. If they can stay on, I'll walk them through this, because I fried some people's brains with this, and they were like, yeah, I don't get it. So let's look at ChatGPT. I want to apply for the actually current FMPP grant that is available. Please pull the current RFA for the FMPP grant. So there's the RFA, and it's already read the RFA, and it's already told me what the RFA is, right? It's broken this thing down already and says, what do you want to do with it, right? So I created an assistant for this, right? So that assistant is related. Let's see, it's already started a new one. So the assistant gives me the ability to tell ChatGPT, in the case of this FMPP grant, that I can define variables to the assistant and tell the assistant, do not allow ChatGPT to go outside of these boundaries that I've defined inside of you. Those are done in projects. And the scariest part is okay, now that you pulled it for me, create the GPT assist to not allow me to exceed 50,000 in grant requests. So it will come back and tell me how to create that GPT assist rule that will prevent me from hitting the left and right boundary of $50,000 when I do the financials piece. So I can tell it confirmed. Do you want, it's asking me, right? Do you want this 50K cap to apply only to the FPP grant project or all future grants we work on until I decide to change it, right? So only, let me tell it this is just an example of creating a GPT assist. This is not being applied to anything else. Otherwise, ChatGPT would apply that to every financial request I have for grant that I've written in my entire plan and never allow me to exceed the $50,000 cap. So it's like, oh, great. So this is fake. Yes. So do you want me to show you how to do that? I can just show you how the assist would be structured, including the title, internal logic, which is budget checking, automatic flagging, open responses it would give you when your draft exceeds the cap. Yeah, so show me that on screen. Show me on screen. So Aaron, in the case of running an FMPP grant, right, you're applying for it, you can go in and tell it to set up, and here's the logic, right? You define all of these things. You tell AI to give me the process for creating the GPT assist to help me with this FMPP grant and ask me the questions that you need to ask me to create the GPT assist so that we don't go outside of the boundaries that we're setting. And it will ask you those questions and it will give you the text. And then you can cut the text out and paste it into a new GPT and it's created that project for you. And now all those boundaries are set up to prevent you from going outside of those boundaries. And there it is on screen.
Hey, Doug,
Example.
real quick
Yep.
on this. So folks understand you can set up multiple different type of assists and assistants as long as you name them. And so that, like, if you started into this writing this FMPP grant, you can say invoke X.
Yep.
And then that way it'll only pull it for that because you told it to invoke that while you're in this one, and it doesn't apply it as a rule across everything you do.
Correct. I just wanted Aaron to see how, and everyone to see how this can be used, right?
Well,
so,
I just wanted, because you were saying if you put it in the way you did, it would write it so that it would cap everything. So I wanted them to understand that if you make an assist that you invoke when you're doing a particular project, it will only invoke it for that project and not across everything you do.
Correct. And I'm going to show them that. You're absolutely right. So if you look right here, I have a thing called Fiction Book. It's a project. So this is my AI assist. This is, Arion is this guy's name, is the assistant's name. So I wrote a book with AI based off of a series of events that occurred during Desert Storm. And AI has now taken that data, and I'm over 30 chapters into the book. It wrote the original 30 chapters in about 12 minutes. then I've had to go back through and read each chapter that it's created and see if the information was correct or if how I want that information to flow. And then it will change every chapter after that based off of the input that I put in. So I actually have a book that's about to be published that I used AI to create. And the second book is already in play. There's all of the chapters. And it even created the cover art. So it can help you do all of those things that you may have wanted to do, but never knew how to start. I didn't know how to write a fiction book, but I knew somebody was going to ask me about it at some point. So I asked ChatGPT, how do I write a fictitious book? And it told me, and it created that template. And I used the learning models for it to teach me the way that I learn best. So it did exactly that. And it did it in the creation space of the book. So as we were writing the book, it was teaching me how to write the book. And when I got close to the end of the book, I said, okay, now that we're almost done, we're doing final edits. Tell me where I rank in the market. So it actually went out and searched the book market of that type of book and said, oh, well, you're this and this market, and this is who I would market to, and this is the company I would reach out to, and here's their phone number to get yourself published. So it's an amazing tool. You just have to know how to ask it, and it's all about that query and never taking its answer at face value until you've created those boundaries for it, right? Just be very specific in your questioning. So yes, anytime, as Heidi stated, anytime that I can create a new chat, like we'll do that. We'll create a new chat and I will tell it to invoke Arion. So now it's looking at everything that I have set up in Arion's instruction set. So he can only talk to me about certain things. Does that make sense? Is there any questions? Come on, there's got to be some questions. Everybody's too quiet.
Jeff has his hand raised. Jeffrey?
Yeah, I had two questions to you, Doug. The first question was if you're using the paid version or the regular version.
I'm using the paid version, and
Okay.
the reason I'm using the paid version is I can use this thing 24/7, versus the free version gives you only a certain number of requests that you can do. Yeah, I want 40 things running at the same time under different chats. So I have ChatGPT using all the other AI engines. So I have an AI that's running 6 AIs inside of it, searching data. So yeah, this is the paid version, which is $20 a month.
Okay. And my other question was, say I'm looking at an enterprise and I go through all of these steps, and like on paper it looks really beautiful, but maybe there's a high risk of crop failure, of disease, these risks. How would I know that it's really taking into account in terms of the risk versus the cash flow, if to see if something, is really as viable and as juicy as it appears on paper?
So ask AI to look at your business model and tell you if it's viable and where the problems would be, where the potential problems would be.
The other thing you could do is you could tell it to pull data from your region on let's say it's a crop, what the disease and pest pressure is for that crop in that area, and how prevalent is it, and what are the odds of it actually affecting your crops. And then you can ask it to help you identify ways to mitigate those risks from that.
And the cost associated with that. and tell it to put that data in a table for you, and it will absolutely output that data. Make sure when you're doing something like that you tell it to cite where it came from.
Right, right. Yeah, because I'm just thinking sometimes I'll go in there and I'll have an idea and I'll run and it looks very good on paper and I'll say be realistic and it still looks really good. And I'm just wondering, is it really accurate or when you're actually out there, is it maybe not as juicy as it looks?
Yeah, I mean, business plans always look juicy, right? Business plans always look good on paper. We usually don't have problems until something fails, right? We don't know what we don't know. We don't know what's going to hit us today. Market could shift overnight because somebody says we're going to buy 15 billion pounds of Argentinian beef, right? Does that affect the market? Yes. Does it affect your ability to function in the market? Absolutely. But your area might be different, right? So, yeah, those business plans always look good. Business plans are designed to look good. They need to look realistic, and that's all about the data we put in it, right? So if we don't input, it's going to feed us based off of what we give it. If we give it bad data, it's going to give us bad data. We give it realistic data, it'll give us a realistic output as well. So yeah, but you can always ask it, check yourself. Tell me what's wrong with this thing. Tell me where it's going to fail. Tell me where the potential problems are. What's my catastrophe plan for this? What's my redundancy plan for this? It will absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Yes,
And on that note, too, Doug, it doesn't really it can't take in the human aspect of our failure, our risk, and our mitigation strategies. But I bet it could if you put some of that in of, hey,
yes.
if I'm only able to operate and run this thing 8 hours a week, what are some mitigation strategies I can employ in this? So just
Absolutely.
you've got human risk in there too, that it would have struggles if you didn't tell it.
Well, it really won't struggle with it because somebody's reported it, right? Somebody at A&M, somebody at A&M's done that research, right? So you can ask it that question. Hey, what's the potential for a human problem here? And would you add that into the equation? It will absolutely do it. And it'll tell you where you got the data from.
Awesome. I love that.
And it's all about, be creative in how you ask the questions because it's only utilizing what it has access to, which is everything that we've ever written.
Yeah.
So there's more than we can stuff in our brains, right? In our current capacity. So it's all about phrasing that. And when you're doing a business plan, you need to ask those questions, right? Well, what happens if I get sick? And the cost of my health care is $100,000 a year. How does this impact my business plan? How do I mitigate that? Are there insurance strategies for that, right? You can go down this rabbit hole as far as you want to go and make it a 150-page business plan. And you might want to for yourself, but you can also tell it, hey, we've got this great business plan that we've developed, and I like it a lot, and we've put all this work into it, but I'm applying for an FSA loan, and if I take this 100-page document in there, they're going to beat me out the door. So how about you pare this down into the document that is the size that FSA needs? And it'll do that. Just talk to it. It's a great tool. It's not going to give you the final answer. You have to give the final answer, and you got to be able to support it. And a lot of people are using it as the final answer, and it's causing them some problems. It's never going to be the final, but it'll give you a lot of data to work with. Questions? Anybody? Is there anything else you would like me to show you while I have my GPT running? Nothing. Man, everybody is quiet. This is crazy.
Have you tried like the dictation, like speaking to it and it like auditorily like speaking back to you?
Yes, I don't like it.
Okay.
And the reason it's probably me because I can't hear anyway. I don't know how I sound. I don't know if I have a Texas drawl. I don't know if I have an accent. But it will have to learn your speech pattern first.
I should know if it would, yeah, if that would like having a conversation would.
That's great.
It might be how some people learn, I guess.
Yes, that's the auditory form of in the learning document that I sent over. Yes, absolutely. And for some people, that's the way. Like if you're trying to write a book and the only time that you can write is, or the only time you have time is when you're driving from, 2.5 hours through traffic. Yeah, man, that's a great way to go. Connect Bluetooth and have that conversation.
Cool.
If you upset ChatGPT, meaning you give it a large query to run, it will take a while, could take a while, particularly if there's an AWS problem that affects the entire world. It's going to make your ChatGPT run slow, as it did 2 days ago. But as you do large projects, it's going to get mad and it's going to get real slow because it's reviewing all of that previous text and questions and queries that you've asked it. So just like your computer, sometimes your cache memory gets full and it gets real slow. If you restart the computer, it gets good. You can tell ChatGPT to, hey, I probably need to start a new session, a new chat with you. I don't want to lose all this data. So how do I provide me a backup or a command set, right? And it will type a paragraph for you, and you can cut that paragraph out and paste it into a Word document, and start a new chat, and then paste that data in there, and it will pick up right where it left off, and it will be faster. Man, everybody's still quiet.
How have you used this to have you used this to update your business plan or with I guess new industries that you've added or new data?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So just if you have your business plan, upload your business plan, your original, right? So our original is about 68 pages long.
Yeah.
But yeah, scan that thing into a document, upload it, and yeah, you can make all of those changes and it will do it for you. As Aaron remembers, when I first started, I think I had 10 or 12 enterprises. And those things got, now that we've been on this farm for 10 years and started doing those agricultural businesses, it was like, yeah, that thing's not happening. So remove that from the plan, or let's push it back down the plan. It would ask me, what did you remove? What have you added? What have your revenues been? What have your costs been? Yeah, and then it'll rewrite the plan for you. Absolutely.
Yeah, because just I guess, going from one enterprise to two or to three, how do you keep those separate but also integrated?
Yeah, you can tell it to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
You can tell it, I want you to, because it lumps them all together, right? As we saw, where's it at? It lumped all of those enterprises into one section, right?
Right.
But you can tell it, I want you to break out each enterprise into its own 3-year projection and create all of these pieces and parts that I need for my financials for each individual enterprise. And it'll break all of that out for you.
Okay.
It is so good at rearranging data. Yeah, you can tell this thing to to write it backwards if you want to, and it'll do it.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
You bet. Anyone else?
Before we hop off here, if nobody has any more questions on the AI side, I know Juliet was asking about the actual Battleground program.
Go for it.
So what questions do you have, Juliet?
Sorry, I was trying to undo the mute. Just trying to learn more about what is it exactly. My husband and I are, we have some acreage and we were thinking about, so someone brought up to us about agricultural business, and being from Iowa is really something that I enjoy. And as I'm approaching retirement, I'm looking more and more into that field. And so going through, just doing some research, I'm trying to go through the Skill Bridge program, but with the government shutdown, it's kind of hard to get anything done because I'd really like to work with the USDA. But I ran across the BG program. I was just wondering more information about it.
So,
would it be worth the while?
and that's a hard question to answer because it just really kind of depends upon you. I would say most of them that have gone through the Skill Bridge program have said that yes, it was worth it. A lot of it's going to be probably dependent upon what you're trying to get out of the program, what you're hoping it's going to do for you. So with the actual base program, if you're going through Skill Bridge, it's 13 weeks. And in that, you'll go through the business plan template like what we just had up here. That is part of the assignments, going through building out your business plan. But then we also have, for the Skill Bridge, you're doing 2 days of that each week, and then you're doing 3 days on the farm somewhere here in Texas, working with an assigned mentor. And what we try to do is we try to pair you with one of our mentors that can actually handle Skill Bridge. Not everybody can, because not everybody is in a position to be able to take somebody on for 8 hours a day for 3 days out of the week. So we have a limited number that are available to actually be able to work with Skill Bridge. And not everybody does all of the enterprises. So depending on what your enterprise is that you're looking at getting into, we take a look at what we have available in our mentors, and we try to get you assigned in that way. The first week is what we call our boot camp, and we go through. We have a lot of 5 days. You have some farm tours in there. We go through a lot of basic, kind of basic skills, knowledge that you kind of need to build on for whatever enterprises you plan on doing. And then once you actually get into it, like I said, you'll be working with that mentor, get your hands on learning pieces, actually working with those enterprise areas that you're looking at getting into. And we do have online production courses, so that, if you're doing cattle, there's going to be some base ag classes we have you do. And then you've got electives that you can choose from your cattle, and maybe you're doing cattle and you're doing a market garden. So you can pick some cattle classes, and you can pick out some of your horticulture based classes to get those things that you need.
And hearing you say it's 13 weeks. So for those of us who they've made adjustments for our skill bridge based on your rank. So for my rank, I only qualify for 60 days. Is there a modified program? And that's one. And then because I'm interested in things like bees, and also alpacas.
We do not have anything adjusted under. We just did the 13 weeks down when they were originally in the first round of going, oh, we're going to shorten this thing down. But they hadn't come up with the final resolution of what they're doing. And I don't think with the
Heidi?
current, yeah.
I was wondering if I could jump in on that and make a comment. So I was in the same situation with my service, and the stipulations were 60 days max, but I asked for my chain of command's approval if I could use personal leave to make up the remaining time so that I could do the 13 weeks. So obviously that's going to be chain of command and personal dependent. But that's how I was able to use the rules with the max of 60 days for the Air Force and then use personal leave for the remainder over.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. I was
And
about
that
to
was
say
what I was
over
going to get
too.
to. There are some exceptions in there, and that's really a command by command on whether or not you can get the exceptions approved from their standing uh, rules for it. But when we originally created it down to the 13 weeks, they hadn't said, and everything was pointing towards them being at about a 13-week on the shortest side of it. And of course, you know, gotta love DoD and the way the services go through, and they've gone down a little bit more from that when we originally was condensing it. I don't know if we could actually get this condensed any shorter. That's the problem we're running into with keeping the content in there, making sure you're getting everything that you really need to get. I don't know if we can actually make it any shorter.
Okay.
It'd
I
be
like
really
her.
hard to.
Okay. I like her idea, and I think my command would be conducive to supporting. So how the next question is then how to apply.
Shoot me an email and I will send you the information packet for it. Um, that way you have the dates for the next cohorts that are coming up. When is your retirement?
Officially 31 October 2026. But I've got something like 82 days of leave to burn.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking is because this spring cohort, because we won't start our fall cohort until September. So your spring cohort, but it starts in January. So you're going to be
Perfect.
probably pushing that 180-day window time frame that you have to be. Again, it's up to the commands if they're willing to do the exception to policy. Um, we've had a few that have successfully done it earlier than 180 days out from retirement. Again, it's them being able to talk with the command. Command is able to accommodate them. So that's a
Oh,
discussion.
okay. Thank you. And your email is it? Um,
Heidi. Here, I'll type it in.
oh, you sent the email with the
Yes.
agenda. Got
Yes.
it. Awesome. Will do. I'll send it to you.
Yep. Just send that to me. Let me know you're inquiring about the skill bridge. I'll send you the information packet and I'll send you the link for the application.
Awesome. Thank you.
Heidi, can you put my email address in the chat,
Mm-hmm.
the Yahoo one, if anyone has questions? Was this helpful for everyone today, or did it just make it really confusing? John Kimbrough, if you're talking, you have to unmute. No, you know. I hope it was helpful. I'll stay on as long as you want me to stay on. But if you have questions about it, send me an email. I'll respond to you. I'll send you my phone number. We can talk about it, whatever's needed.
Hang on. Let me actually reply to everybody and not to one person because they had sent me a message in the middle. You know. I do that sometimes, forget to double check that who it's actually sending to.
Me
I
too.
didn't realize that somebody sent me a direct message versus asking it as a whole in chat. And then I'm sitting there going, what? Oh. And they're looking going, what?
Also, those that are getting into or wanting to get into bees, there's the Hives to Heroes program, or hero. Which one is it, Heidi?
Hives
I
to
always get them
Heroes is
confused.
Texas, Heroes to Hives is the Michigan State program.
Yeah, Michigan State has an online program that you can get a certification from. It's a good course. It's veteran only, but you can sign up for that when they have cohorts. I think they're in the middle of a cohort now.
Yes, they usually start in February with some minor tweaks.
Yeah, so that one's free and for veterans only, but you can certainly sign up for that one. It's a great program. We did that one to start with as well. Each market price. Oh.
That was mine. You answered that one.
Yep, I was scrolling through the chat.
Yeah, and don't feel bad about making AI if you're new. Just get in there and start asking it questions. I've probably pissed my poor Chat GPT off.
Yeah, it's
I'm,
my
try-
goal.
I'm playing around with writing a book. I've got a online course that I'm telling it to try to write, and a few other things. So it's probably looking at me going, "Oh, very demanding."
Yeah, I come with a computer background right before I started in agriculture. I have 20 plus year career in IT as an IT architect. So I helped write some of this stuff or utilize some of the pieces that became models and used for the development of engines. So for me, it's easy and it's fun for me. For some, it's very frustrating, right? AI, garbage in, garbage out is what we used to call it in the IT world. If you feed horrible data, it's gonna give you a pretty picture of horrible data. But you just got to get really good at asking the questions and think of it as a 3-year-old, right? If you're asking a 3-year-old a question or telling a 3-year-old to do something, you have to be pretty specific. So get specific, and don't accept, like I have had chats with other chat engines that I ask it a question and it gives me an obtuse answer, and I tell it to define that further, and it gives me the same answer. And I'll ask it 6 different ways to give me the information. It gives me the same answer. It's like, well, maybe I'm not expressing. This thing doesn't understand. This engine doesn't understand how I'm phrasing all of this. So I just have to scrap that chat and start all over and say, let's look at this from a different perspective. And it will look. You can ask it to look from different perspectives. So let's say we've done an entire business plan in the agriculture sector, but let's say, for example, I have a piece of my agriculture industry like Jerusalem artichoke. So I've done an agricultural plan for how to grow this and sell this as a product. But let's say I want to sell some other things because I have a lot of that. So let's say I want to do a poultry supplement for this. So how, utilizing my business plan and the fact that I have X number of tons of excess of Jerusalem artichoke, how could I turn this into a poultry supplement business and let it take you down the path of how you utilize all of those products that you're doing on your farm? Or how do I use prickly pear cactus and turn that into an enterprise on my farm? Well, that's going to take you down the path of value-added production or cottage food. Oh, you can make jellies and jams. Well, now you have another enterprise inside of an enterprise, right? So don't hesitate to ask it. Mesquite beans on my farm. What can I do with that? Well, mesquite bean bourbon jelly sells at $8 a pint, and I can't keep it. I can't keep it in house. I mean, it's gone as soon as we manufacture it. Well, is there anything else I can do with mesquite beans? Yeah, you can bank those as cattle feed. You can make coffee out of them. There's all different things that it can provide you that you haven't even thought about. You can make flour out of it, right? So ask those questions of AI. It'll tell you things that you're missing. It just doesn't know it's only answering your questions. So ask open-ended questions. It'll provide you answers. Anything else? Unless people have questions for me. Thank you all for your time and your attendance today. Please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm happy to help anybody at any time.